Okay, let's jump from France to Netherlands to meet the next guest. That is a collective of graphic designer. The name is Thonik. So we have here Roy Terhorst. Sorry for the pronunciation, but it's a nightmare for me with too many R, as you can imagine. And please join me on the stage. Thank you. Roy is a senior designer, also a motion designer, and in his presentation we will see some great works and some project where there is this intersection between graphic and motion graphic. Okay?
Yes, that's what it is. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And everybody, thanks for being here so early on a Sunday morning. My name is Roy. I'm a graphic and motion designer at Studio Thonik. And today I want to show you some of the experimental motion design I make. Tell you why I do it and how this relates to Thonik projects. These experiments are often made in a train back home or in evening hours. So at Thonik we always start with a concept, and then a particular shape or form will be born from that concept we have. But on the other side there's also a strong urge to play and to start form-driven, to play with these shapes in motion to discover new worlds. And those worlds you only can discover by playing them. So in general, I can say these experiments are made to show how I relate to graphic design and what I think is interesting in animation at the moment. And in my studio work at Thonik, I often try to bridge the gap between motion design and print design. And in my research, I often try to get the computer make work for me. For example, these wavy lines, they are made in Cinema 4D. It's a program typically used in the advertising industry. And here you can set an amount of lines and you play with the waviness. And the in-between shapes, they are all filled in by the program. And these blobs, they are made in a gravity space called Newton. And in traditional animation programs, you have to set keyframes. But here you can set behaviors. So you can tell the blobs how to act and react on each other. This New Year's card I made, showing 2018. Here the parts of the typography are taking over the color every time a colored circle hits a part of the type. Wishing everybody a colorful and happy new year. And here I only animated the top left one. And the rest of the blocks is told with a very little script to always look in the one in front of him and then always try to be a little bit faster, giving you these nice wavy lines. This walking blocks, I only animated the bottom one, and the top one is using the bottom one as a motor, and together they can walk forever. So those are my experimental projects. But how do we use this at the studio at Thonik? Well, a client we work a lot for is the Holland Festival. It's, let me take a little bit of water. All right. The Holland Festival, it's an international performing arts festival in Amsterdam. It's already there since 1947. When they called us to pitch for their visual identity, we were super enthusiastic because a lot of heroes in the history of Dutch graphic design worked for them, such as Dick Elvis, Wim Krauwel, Anton Beke, Maureen Moore and Daniel van der Velde. So we wanted to use a bit of this graphic heritage in our visual approach. So how we did it. This is the logo made by Anton Beke in 1995. And as you see, he took away some vowels. He made the logo a little bit shorter. And then 10 years later, in 2005, Maureen Moore made this logo. She made it even shorter into this HF. So the question we asked ourselves was, how can we make this even shorter? So the next step was to make it into a ligature. That's a combination of two letters combined into one, and they share one vertical stroke. But it got a bit swastika-like. So we took away a bit more, resulting in this ligature and stencil typeface combination. But now we had to address this to a new audience, so we needed to make the full name, like this. And in the animation I show, you see a bit how we did it. So that's how it got done. And then together with Typeface Foundry Bold Monday, we worked out the whole alphabet. And here you see that all the individual letters have different ways of how the stencil is cut. So we always could play with it however we liked it. And from there we made a ligature set of over 150 different ligatures. We could use those ligatures in their first graphic invitations like this. It's saying uitnodiging, which is Dutch for invitation. Like this, we use it. The green should be very poppy RGB, so add it in your head a little bit of green to it. We could use it in the titles for the program. And it's everywhere through the whole city, in Amsterdam, the whole month. So we call it like a city dressing. We made a lot of flags, and all the venues will be dressed into this HF style. And for the first facade we made, we really wanted to show the new identity. So really, we placed the logo big together with the ligatures. And this way we also made it the first posters, like this. So here we really wanted to show the new identity to the people of Amsterdam. And then 1 year later, so we make the graphic identity, and then every year we play with a certain theme to it. So 1 year later, they asked us if we could stress out their international character, because a lot of different countries were attending the festival. So we started thinking in our concept that if we just introduced to the Amsterdam people that Holland Festival is HF, then we can say, we can use these typical country codes, those abbreviations, and then we can say United Kingdom is UK, Ukraine is UA, and Mali is ML. So we search for all the country codes, and then a ligature of UK would look like this, a ligature of Mali would look like this, and for the color system we used the flags of the countries, and we color picked it. So Mali would look like this, and UK would look like this. And with this concept, we presented this animation to the client. And from there we made this typographic poster. So here we really could adapt the idea of the identity, the ligatures and the combinations into the first edition style. And we use this graphic image throughout for all the items in the city, like this facade and the poster in the night. And then 1 year later, we had a bit more of an urge to play. And as an outcome of earlier showed experiments, we made this moving poster. And here you see the blocks around it, they are born out of the typography. And when we started playing with it, we came to this moving poster. That will go on forever. So we started with a motion poster here. We started with the animation. We had a timeline. So now we were able to look whenever we liked the composition in the moving poster, we pressed pause, and we used this in the printed posters. So we deployed the computer as an image maker. So the printed posters in the city look like this, alongside with the digital screens showing the moving posters. So then we had to work on this facade again, and we thought, well, if we started with the moving posters for all the printed matter, we should first digitalize the facade, and then place the tag where we want it, stack the blocks around in space, and then we hit the gravity button. And sometimes blocks were falling out of the screen, so we had to do it again. But whenever we liked the composition, we sent it to the printer. We did not change anything about it, and this way it's used on the facade. And in a way, we needed this gravity space to achieve the stacking of the blocks, because if you had to do this all by hand, it will take you a lot of time, and it will probably not look as good as when the computer is generating it for you. So this way, we also made the flags. So first there were animations, we pressed pause, then this canvas is used, some more big banners, and even this festival tram. And whenever we like the composition, it's sent to the printer and used on the tram. Then in 2017, the Holland Festival turned 70 years. So they started in 47. And this year they really wanted to show they're celebrating their birthday. And they asked us if we could use some of their photos, because it's always so graphic. And then we got those photos, and we do like them, but they are typical for in a program book or on a website, but we didn't want to show this on a poster or in a campaign. So we started to play with a gradation code. And at point 0, you see the original footage, how we get it. And then after the code, so at point 1, you see it looks a bit like a crappy Photoshop filter. But the more we cracked it up, the interesting the graphic abstractions get. So now we could easily turn a photo like this into a beautiful graphic abstraction, like this. And this code works on a static image, but it also works on a moving image. So from there we could use their footage and put the code over it. And the way how we did it was we used the coding in the browser. Because we discovered that when we were using the traditional programs like Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, the color spectrum was reacting differently. Because we found out that this is a zoom in of the browser, that the browser always tries to stay sharp. It tries to get the line sharp. And then those beautiful abstractions were going on. And this is what we wanted. One sip of water. But now we had to get this into the printed matter again. So we were searching for a system how we could export a browser to an A0 poster. You have to imagine if this is an A0, which you want to print on 300 dpi in the best case scenario to get the high quality, then the screen capture of a browser looks like this. So it's way smaller, and this is on our biggest screen. And then we could not find a system of exporting it, and we ended up by making a lot of different screen captures, and we pasted them together in Photoshop to get those posters, which felt very like a silly job, but the results were exactly what we wanted. Then we made 2 posters, one showing HF, one showing the 70, and in the city it looks like this. And we also stitched together a whole tram for that year. And as I mentioned before, the coding, it works on static image, but on moving image we could use it as transitions to go from one scene to another, like this. So, and then for last summer, they asked us if we could add a bit more subtleness to their identity, because we're always using this stencil bolt a lot. That was the typeface we designed. So to give there a bit more subtleness, we added the weights of the font family. So we made a semi-bold, medium, a regular, and a light. And in return, we give them 4 extra logos they could use, going from light to bold. And then this year's theme was the multitude of different cultures in today's society. And when we started to play with this idea, we started to coloring in the logos. And when we overlapped them together, we came to a pretty interesting graphic image we could use. And then we found out if we added a little circle to it, this graphic abstraction of a face was appearing. We found it interesting since the theme was about different cultures and different identities. And with this concept, we made this animation. This is how it looked like on the digital screens in Amsterdam. So again, here we started in an RGB world to get the colors very poppy and strong. But again, we had to get it into the A0 posters and the prints. And the first results we get from the printer, they were really letting us down because the colors were super flat and we could not fix it in full color or CMYK. So we started to experimenting, and it resulted in this experimental poster series where we use 6 different Frio colors. They are overlapping each other to get as bright as we could. So this was the brightest that we could get in the printed posters to the digital screens. And this is how we used it for this year's facade. So this is how we love to work. We have a client where we make the identity, we design the identity. But then every year we break open our own identity and to fit it to a certain theme. And this way we also work for the VPRO, translated to VPRO. It's a Dutch broadcasting channel. And their content is everything between very absurd humor to a deeply critical journalism. And here you see the range of the logos they had. So at the top one, you see the lowercase and an outline. Then in the 50s, this American swoosh came in. And then the third one, it's what they used in the 1980s until the 2010s. And the last one is what we make out of it. And in our approach, we wanted again to use some of this heritage. Because a lot of people love this brand because they are so outspoken and I guess they have anarchy between all the other channels. So we started to analyze the old logo, and this is the logo they had. For us it was a bit spoofy, and we found out that the V and the O, they are opposites, and the P and the R are more or less the same. And if you dress it down, then it's rather more a graphic image instead of a typeface. So you cannot type anything with it, and it's very hard to animate. And what it binds together is this crooked triangle. This is what it made a bit iconic, I think. So at the on the top you see the uppercase, and our next step was to put it in a lowercase. And we found out that the rhythm was getting more interesting, and the V and the R, they are more or less the same, and the P and the O, they are the same, more or less the same. And we could even bring back their triangle twice. But then we had to adjust this. So if you outline it, here you see the triangle of the P is going to the heart of the P. But at the O we had to adjust it a bit. So we put it there. But then there was a big gap between the R and the O, so we made some adjustments. And from here we had this perfectly balanced lowercase VPRO logo. And from this system we can make a lot of changements in the logos. And the reason why we wanted to have a lot of different possibilities was because every VPRO show starts with this 3 to 5 second animation every day for years. So people are asked to watch at the logo for 3 or 5 seconds, which is a long time to look at the logo every day. And from here, we made it over 1 billion different logos for them, and they are still using them. And the items, the station calls, they open every show. We made like hundreds of them, and this is a short selection. So this was a selection of the islands. They are on in the Netherlands on the national television. But we're not only making those graphic images, but sometimes we also make campaigns for them. And then we have to work with footage they get. And this is an example of how that works. And then from this 4 letters we designed the whole typeface together with typeface van der Bondmande again. So first we had this VPRO, the 4 letters, and from there we worked out the whole alphabet, and we call this the simplistic. And now we also could make all their program titles, because in the old days the program of the VPRO had his own identity, because every program maker knows some designer who can make a logo. But now we had this system, so all the logos or all the programs are linked together to this VPRO identity. And from here we also make leaders for them, showing, opening the programs like this. And another example like this. So that's what we do for the VPRO already for 9 years, I think. And all the items are being renewed yearly. Another client we love to work for is the Power Station of Art in Shanghai. It's a museum in Shanghai showing contemporary art. And when they came to us to work on the identity, they already had this logo. It was designed by Sun Hope Design from Shanghai. And it reflects a bit the logo, the chimney of the building. But it also stands for a Chinese character, means Dang, which means contemporary. And they asked us if we could build out an identity from this logo they already had. So we started to play with it. We break open the logo, because we don't see a logo as something which has to stand in a corner, but it should be a frontman talking to its audience. And from this logo, we give them this toolbox. And with this toolbox, we made our first stationery, so the business cards and the newsletters, etc. And the bars, they can have a prominent role on their poster and campaigns we make yearly. So here you see the 5 bars, they can reveal something, or you can draw over it. They can act like Swiss mountains, they can structure information. They can be part of those Chinese calligraphic illustrations. Or they can act like a framework for photography. So we don't change the size of the 5 bars, it's always the same, but then we play with, react on an image with it. And this is how the people in the museum walk around. And from here, one of the exhibitions we did was called Body Media. It's an exhibition about the relationship between bodies and identities. And again, we started with a moving poster here. So the 5 bars from the logo are morphing to this human shape. How do we say that? To achieve this effect, because we really wanted to react the bars on each other, and the lines of the human shape should also react on it. We made this interactive tool together with Ben West. And in this interactive tool, we really could play with snap power and snap distance. And from here, we could make all the graphic items. So again, like the HF, we pressed pause whenever we like the composition. And this way it's used, for example, this way it's used for a trailer like this. Thank you. It's not finished yet, but thanks. This is the poster we made out of this tool. And sometimes we also break open our own rules. So I just told everyone we always play with 5 bars. But here we skipped the bars because it was in collaboration with Fondation Cartier from Paris. They were having this exhibition, A Beautiful Elsewhere, in Shanghai. And here, as an outcome of earlier showed experiments, we used those blobs. They are traveling from Paris to Shanghai, and they are acting and reacting on each other on the way there. And here again, we set the computer as the image maker. So we pressed the animation whenever we liked it, and this way it's used on the poster, on the flags, and on the invitations. And from there we made this little trailer. So that was the trailer we made. So to sum it up, we always start with a lot of different experiments in motion. Sometimes, if we are lucky, we could use these experiments for clients. And if that's not the case, we make those animations or moving posters out of them, and we use it to show on our Instagram. All right. And recently, those animations are added to the book we just published. This should be really powerful green. And this book is, in this book, it's showing 25 years of the studio Thonik, of the work and the projects we do. It's available at Last Muller Publishers. And last year, we translated this book into an installation. We had a solo exhibition in Shanghai. And here, we made an installation of 11 rooms. They are connected to the 11 chapters of the book Why We Design. And here, the rooms are divided with curtains, and on the curtains all those motion graphics are beamed. So people really had to break open our work to go to the next room. And we are still waiting for good PR videos from Shanghai. We don't have it. I got a pretty okay-ish video from my iPhone to give you a little impression.
是不是那个光摄影的吧？
So that's what I wanted to show to you today. Thanks a lot.